Welcome to Great Talking Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Welcome back, everyone. My name is KJ, and I am the host of Great Talking Entertainment. And today is my spoiler review for the new show on Hulu/Disney Plus, Murdaugh Death in the Family, Episode 6 spoiler review. If you have not seen this, please pause this. And before you go, could you hit the thumbs up button, aka the like button? Hit that button. Come watch it and let me know in the comments below what you think about Episode 6 of Murdaugh Death in the Family in the comments below, because I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about it. So again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now let's get into it. This episode starts off on June 7, 2021 at 10:26 p.m. re-showing us the scene from episode 1 as Maggie and Paul are dead. And then the episode takes us to Maggie before her death. She is just at the beach house at South Carolina, and she's just staring at the ocean water, just reminiscing, making some the big decisions that she's going to make, that thinks she's looking at her life, her future, and what that looks like, and just realizing and regretting at the same time. You can tell of some of the choices she makes. But and Paul, we see Paul go through his version of this throughout this scene too. So this is really what we're kind of seeing is like two of the family members just maturing and growing and realizing they're wronging, and they want to change, be a better person. That's what we're seeing with these two people, Maggie and Paul. And then we see Alex Murdaugh, who's not changing for the best, but for the worst. And, she's on her way to change, and she's still sad, and she's still thinking about the past, of course, and having memories. And this is kind of like showing the calm before the storm, too. As the next scene is, Alex is calling Maggie, but no one's answering. No one's answering through this scene. Alex is mentally breaking down with the case, and there's more going on, and they're still investigating and coming up with new charges. And Alex is trying to cover up some of this, but he just seems like he's failing at this. And Paul is at a sports bar with some friends and stuff, and they're trying to say, hey, how about you come, roommate with us and stuff. And we see him cutting back on alcohol, just like Maggie is. And, that was an interesting scene because, how I was comparing, like, these two characters, Maggie and Paul, in this episode, is like Maggie was just staring at the beach. She's somebody who's obviously has more life experience than Paul, and she's obviously the mom, and she's older and wiser, and she's looking back on her whole life so far. And Paul here is still a young man, and he still has a chance to have a quote-unquote better future, a better life, because, years have gone by now, and it seems like more of this is the law, the police, court, whatever, is more interesting and focusing more on Alex Murdaugh's past and his schemes and stuff. And Paul, it seems like Paul is kind of like gets a chance, and he was staring out of nowhere, and he was just imagining Marilyn Beach, who's the woman who passed away on the boat accident. He was just imagining, daydreaming her supposed to be out at this sports bar just having a good time eating together, and he was just imagining him with her. And that's him feeling guilty, and so that's why he turned down that shot. He's like, nah, give it to the young lady here, because he doesn't want to be that guy no more. He doesn't want to cause another scenario like that. And he wants to change, and I think he is changing. And which is sad, because when we get to this, as we see all that's happening, we see Alex Alex Murdaugh's the grandfather, his father, Rudolph Murdaugh is doesn't have a lot to live. And we see that Maggie Murdaugh, she's willing to come back, to not to rebuild that relationship, but to say goodbye out of respect, and that's where we're seeing the difference. And so far I feel sad for Maggie Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh. I believe she did her best to help her family. And I believe Alex Murdaugh screwed it all up with his ego. And Paul, he's showing signs again of just maturing. And I feel bad, because he was still young, and he could have been a better person. Now, the scene is, after that, we get back to Maggie's coming back again for respect for the grandfather. And now this takes place at 8:15 p.m., 2 hours before her and Paul's death that has happened. Alex Murdaugh is not handling what's going on after Maggie told him, hey, I want to get a divorce. And that's really scary for Maggie, because these are all lawyers. This family is like a lawyer. They're lawyers. They know how to play the game. But she's got to do this. This is what she wants to do. And we see Alex making these hollow promises. And what's crazy is, like, he's like, baby, please, this time I promise I'm going to change. I'm going to rehab. I'm going to this time is going to be different. And obviously this ain't the first time she heard him say these things, and she's just not buying it, which led to when Maggie and Paul went to where all the dogs are at. That's when everybody got shot. And what this episode did was show Paul was on the couch with his mom, just eating ice cream or whatever. And then he went to go check where everybody's at, and he was like, oh my God, they've been shot. But here's the thing. I believe now, after watching this, I believe this whole time Alex Murdaugh has planned all this. I think now I realize, I think he planned with the maid, with her death. And here's what I mean. He noted in I forget what episode it was, but maybe it was episode 3. He was checking. He knew that there was a loose brick on the front porch, right? And I think he schemed it, and I think he knew that he can get he could sue the home insurance company, which he did, and he screwed over the maid's kids, 2 sons, out of money, and then they got kicked out of their own trailer due to not paying rent. And now this, I believe that, if you remember, Alex Murdaugh had a right-hand man with this jellyfish company business. I believe he is the one because the gun that they used on Paul and Maggie had a silencer, and I think it was Alex Murdaugh's weapon, but I think his right hand man did the shooting, and I think all this to scheme, and I think that his ego's so big. I think in his mind he can get away with it and just rebuild a family, a legacy of the Murdaugh family, because again, I think he cares about the name, the reputation of who he is and what the family represent, because I believe too that before his grandpa, his dad, Randolph Murdaugh, I think he wanted his son to pull off this crime, to pull off this hit and make it look like somebody else murdered it. And I think that was the whole plot of this. And that's what I believe. Just based off of 6 episodes now, that's what I think. I think this whole time, Alex Murdaugh planned all this and schemed all this so he can cash out. And because this would help him, if he can sue and get money off of this murder that he probably conducted, that would help his financial situation, and that would pay off a lot of debt, and that would help his court case, with other issues. So that's why I think this happened, and that's what I believe he pulled off, in my opinion. But this episode really was just like the thing that if Maggie and Paul didn't get murdered, here's where they would have went. Here's the path that they were going. But unfortunately, Alex Murdaugh, out of desperation with everything that's going on with him, everything that has happened with him, he got desperate and he went this route. And it's unfortunately that he took somebody's life that wasn't their choice. That's not their choice. He chose that. And that's not right. But that's what this episode was about. I think more people just wanted to change and just move on and be better, while Alex was still trying to keep the money and the power. And that's where the downfall really begins. I mean, the downfall began in episode 1, of course, but this really shows a man being desperate. And, this is a really good episode of just explaining that and showing what a person would do out of desperation like that. And it's just really sad that this is the point that's where it's happening. And obviously, we got 2 more episodes left, episode 7 and episode 8. So I'm guessing now episode 7 and 8 are going to be really focusing more on Alex Murdaugh in court. And I believe the woman, Mandy, who's the journalism, I think it's going to be her making reports, getting claims, having witnesses speak up. And I think this is where the last 2 episodes of this series, like the justice system turns on Alex Murdaugh. And that's what I think what's going to happen next. I think they wanted episode 6 to say, okay, here's where they're at now. Now we're moving after. Now every scene, the next 2 episodes are going to be more about the aftermath of the death of Maggie and Paul. Like, how does the older brother feel? How does his wife feel about it? How does the brother Randy feel about it? And there's going to be so much more. But this was like what could have been the positive of it, but unfortunately this took on a negative turn thanks to Alex Murdaugh becoming a desperate person. And that's what I liked about this episode. This is showcasing the viewers, the audience, of what a desperate person would do, and not thinking logically. Logic went out the window. And what a person can pull off with the right connections and just a little bit of cash, he thinks all his problems can go away. And this is where the life lesson for him begins. And it's going to take a big toll on him in his future. So, really good episode. Really sad. This really helps the audience really feel bad for the other family members, but really shows the audience why you should not like Alex Murdaugh. Whether he actually committed the crime or he's the one who set up this whole scheme to have somebody become it, like put a hit on his own wife and son. You know, whatever version you want to go on, they're giving you a reason why you should really not like this man or respect this man at all. And that's what I like about this episode. So, if I had to give this an episode 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a 6. Really good episode. It's a little slow. You know, I think we got to the point of like, but they needed to show where everybody else was at, because as I was talking about Maggie and Paul, but look throughout this episode, Alex Murdaugh felt lonely at times. You know, there was a guy who was checking up on his dogs for like a vet. He's like a vet, and he's like, "Hey, here's some things you want to check out." And like, he's like, "You want to go hunting right now or drink some beer?" And the guy's like, "No, I really can't. I got busy things to do." And he had a lady friend, but that really hurt Alex because he feels alone and he feels isolated, and he feels like he has nobody in his corner. And I think Maggie was his North Star of finding some common sense and how to really handle a situation like that. And once he lost that, I think he became mentally mad, mentally crazy about the stuff. And that's why he was like, he was laying down in his office just panicking, you know, overwhelmed, probably having anxiety attacks. And he's still addicted to those painkillers. He was more addicted than ever. And so it was all he had left was alcohol and pills. And that what drove him to do what he did. So he just mentally broke down and snapped and got desperate. And that's what it was. But it took a slow time to get to that point, but that's the only reason why I'm giving it a 6, because they had to slow it down. I feel like they could have cut some of that off and showed maybe more of what the Mandy and her, like, have scenes of seeing Mandy work on another paper or article about Alex Murdaugh, or maybe seeing a detective finding some clues, some solid evidence or something to pinpoint on Alex Murdaugh. I wish they showed something more of like that. But I understand they wanted to make sure you fully understood what was going down and see the emotional side of each of these characters. So that's why I'm only giving it a 6. But other than that, it was really good. And that's my spoiler review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment Official Channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace out.